The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
I'm horror author T. Fox Dunham.
And I'm filmmaker and author Phil Thomas.
And tonight we're asking you,
what are you afraid of?
Countdown to Halloween.
Well, it was a lovely event to swim at. You know?
Yes, I'm still swimming. It's a nice wading pool. When you get to the deep end, which kind of surprises you, it's you learn if you can swim or not.
You do. There were frogs leaping from puddle to puddle.
But you took off your banana slicker.
Your lovely banana.
Yes, my nice little banana slicker, which, because I didn't have it initially, and then God punished me by pouring down rain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, when it
And
stopped, I'm
frogs.
like, I will go get it. And so God said, I will make it not rain now. So I have my,
Rain and frogs.
and so yes, we've been going around, some of the places in the fort. I've been wandering around all day, playing with the ghosts.
To let our audience know, we are currently recording and broadcasting live on video at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, where the haunted event has been rained out a bit.
And there's a lot of unhappy people apparently.
Little
that
bit,
are
yeah.
out there.
Did they rain out the ghosts?
I pretty much, yeah. I think anybody could stay if they
I don't
wanted
think
to,
they-
but
yeah.
but as you saw,
They
this
didn't
was
kick
a
anyone out. But
no, right.
Well, basically they didn't want to, yeah.
Bit of a flood.
And even if the rain stops, like I was saying, the damage is pretty much done. Everything's just like drenched.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That's part of the fun, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a true ghost
If you
hunter,
have-
it's not like you go, well, it's too rainy for the ghosts. It's not like you're going, outside. So, I mean, I will slog through anything for a ghost.
Right.
And, in fact, we went to a couple of places, and I think I was with another very nice family, and they're seeing, they were doing some audio recordings. I don't know if they got anything yet, but...
Are they still out there now? Or
Yeah,
they're still out there.
you called me in to come do this, so I was
Okay.
like, I will be back.
Maybe we'll get them in. See what they found.
So far, we haven't really found anything. I found something earlier. I have, and I posted on Haunted Philadelphia page. I had like two experiences with this light in casement 1, which seemed to be very much wanting to interact with me.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I showed it to.
Showed it to me, and that was not dust.
I
told it 2 times. That was not dust.
Not dust, and it's weird that it showed up in 2 different places. The first time I had my flash on the camera, so then you kind of have to say, well, it could have been something, and the flash was reflecting off of it.
Mm-hmm.
It could, but the second one I made sure I did not have my flash on because I wanted to rule that out, and it actually manifests on camera, so you can say, well, it's not something that's flying from off camera, and then it shows up and then flies back off. So it's like almost like, and so I'm gonna go back and play in that casement 1 if you guys want to come and play, and see if we can't get more interaction with hauntings.
We'll bring our scuba gear.
It's you just got to bring your waders and some fishing poles, and because there was somebody who was saying that they thought they saw a crocodile in the pond outside.
Really?
They said it did not look like a turtle or a frog, and so we decided it was, so then he said it looked like a crocodile.
So does that mean, for people that don't know, there's a big long path,
Yeah.
and 2 swamps on either side.
It's a
that
moat,
Run
basically,
from
yeah.
here to the parking lot. So maybe that means we should just run when we go into our cars so we don't get tackled.
I told them, I said,
by an alligator
if you
or
want to
crocodile.
find out what it is, go into the pond, let it bite you, then come back out and we'll look at the bite and be able to tell what it is.
If you survive. We'll do an autopsy.
But no, look, even if you don't survive, we'll still get, like, look at Jaws and all that. They have the body and they go, oh, here's how big the shark is. So he did not seem willing to do that. I don't know why.
In the name of science.
It's like, look, you can't say you saw something and it looked like a crocodile and not actually be willing to jump in.
He wasn't taking one for the team at all.
I'm telling you, if you make a claim like that, you better jump in and back it up.
It's kind of like if you're like, oh, I think I saw a ghost. Okay, go look for it.
Right.
You'll be like, it's over there. It's.
You know what? To his credit, though, I think I might not do the crocodile thing either.
You're not going to do the crocodile thing.
I don't think I'm going to, no.
I will say, anybody who's interested in coming out to Fort Mifflin, I mean, some of the guides that I've talked to are amazing. They have some really great stories. Hopefully they tell everybody these stories. Maybe just me.
Well, Fort Mifflin, part of its charm is its ghost stories.
Yes.
You know.
Before we came out and got you, were you walking around out there?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm like going out, like, I'm not like, oh,
like
there's some
out
water
there.
on the ground. I'm like, let's go through the water.
So you weren't standing under the shelter, and you were just like...
She was out there.
I was out there,
there in the thick of it.
And you know
what? Wet shoes. To prove that, I mean, I just gave up trying to have dry shoes, and now it's just slogged through the marsh.
And you got the place to yourself, basically.
Yeah,
that's hard to do here on a ghost hunting night because
that's part of the charm is that you can go out there and really experience. And two, it's like I think the ghosts more respect you because like you walked through water for them. Mm-hmm. You didn't like, oh, it was like it's too rainy and I'm not gonna come see you. It's like they kind of like, and two, it's like you kind of get an idea of what it was like when in the Civil War when this was a prison. Okay, and it rained.
Wow.
You know, they didn't have like another pair of shoes and. You know, they just got wet and cold and...
Yeah, you're right.
Can you imagine the yellow fever that people would get out here when it rained in my work? So there was a major yellow fever epidemic.
I know there was.
In Philadelphia. It was pretty bad. Yeah, but okay. This is episode 59. Horror at Fort Mifflin. Which right now is the rain. Kind of.
Yeah, that's the biggest horror right now.
This isn't...
Not for her, though. She doesn't mind.
She's out
You
there.
get it. You know, it's like, oh, it's raining. It's weather. It's outside. You get to deal with it.
Yeah.
Stop being wimpy.
Yeah, she's a trooper. This one. She's out there.
If you're going to go, you're going to go for ghost hunting, you better be prepared to deal with it. Kind of like, you're like, oh, there's bugs. Like, that's what happens.
For everyone, this is Darcy Oordt, our Philadelphia ghost expert on paranormal activity and history in Philadelphia. You wrote the book Haunted Philadelphia.
Yes.
Which, if you look at we did like 4 episodes of Paranormal Philadelphia, and she did 3 with us. And if you go on the website, the new and improved website, by the way, and you look on the episode pages, you will find links to her books, her site. It's a wonderful book, well-researched, well-written, and definitely pick up Haunted Philadelphia by Darcy Oordt. And I'm T. Fox Dunham, and this is
Phil Thomas?
Yeah.
Did you see our new website yet?
Oh.
I have not seen your new website yet.
You have to check it out. It's pretty
I need
good.
to check it out. I need to update my website.
It's just something
Mine's
that's...
bad.
Social media is so time-consuming. At this point, it's like, well, I can write, or I can do social media.
Right, yeah.
At this point.
See, and that's what too, and I'm trying to get another book, and so which I'm not going to talk about, but I'm just going to say I'm working on another book, but
Right.
it is a ghost book, but it's like, and it's kind of different than...
It is a ghost book?
It is a ghost book.
Okay.
It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I actually was like, suggested it to my agent, and she went, that sounds really cool, and so I'm
Good.
like, oh, good.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
Horror authors T. Fox Dunham and Phil Thomas come to haunted Penhurst Asylum on Friday, October 6th and Friday the 13th to host an evening of ghost stories and horror on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show. Penhurst is one of America's oldest, most haunted sites, investigated by sci-fi's ghost hunters and ghost adventure, and they're broadcasting live on those nights. Fox and Phil will be dressing up as their favorite ghouls to talk to the crowds, interview paranormal historians, and share the many spooky tales surrounding the 112 acres of the old mental estate. So come out with your ghost stories on October 6th and the 13th to help them celebrate
Their countdown to Halloween 2017 at Penhurst Asylum.
For more information, visit the website at www.whatayouafraidofpodcast.com. Happy Halloween!
Countdown to Halloween.
So we're here at Penhurst. Cindy and I are down, exploring the site, having fun, getting ready for our spooktacular October on What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show on ParaX Radio on Friday nights on the EMC network and available on all major podcast video services. We're everywhere. And we are speaking with a person we happened upon coming out, and your name is?
Laura.
Laura. And you've been here how long?
This is my second year.
Okay, and what do you do here?
I work at the second floor of the Mayflower building.
Okay, and you've said you've had some paranormal experiences here. Could you tell us about those?
Yes, one time I was talking to another employee. Everybody had left, and we were closing up for the night, and I felt a flick on my shoulder, and immediately the person I was talking to, his eyes went directly to where I felt it, and he said, and I said, "What was that?" And he said, "I just saw a black figure go up your arm like a long finger." We looked at the ceiling, we looked at the floor. We thought maybe it was a paint chip, but paint chip would not make that kind of feeling. Anyway, so that was pretty cool. I wasn't scared, And the other one was I was standing in the doorway at the Mayflower, and I just heard a sound, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe there was somebody behind me. The next day, another employee said that she said, "Oh, tonight I heard somebody breathing heavy in my ear." So I thought that was really cool that she felt it at the same spot around the same time, same sound. So yeah, it was really cool. I never feel scared. I always feel some sort of comfort in the building.
And that's the Mayflower building?
Yes.
There seems to be a pattern here of people having their hair flicked or touched or reached out to.
Yeah, it definitely hit I could feel when I felt the flick, I felt my hair go with it, and a little bit of a wind, kind of, like that.
Definitely felt like somebody animate, somebody who touched you as opposed to,
Yes, somebody messing around just walking up in front of me, flicking my shoulder. That's what it felt like.
Well, thank you so much. And I see a gentleman standing over here. Thank you, by the way. I imagine you're listening to the ghost stories, and hi, I'm T. Fox Dunham with What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show. We're up here getting ready to do some live shows here in October. We were just meeting with Jim Werner. And have you ever had any ghost experiences here?
I mainly work on this ramp out here. The only experience I've ever had was one night. It was late. It was probably 11 o'clock, and I saw what I thought I saw, a figure in one of the windows, and that's across from Mayflower there. I don't know what building that is.
But it was on, and nobody was in the building at the time, but you thought...
No one's allowed in that building.
Right, but you thought you saw someone standing and watching you.
Correct.
Right. And what is your name, sir?
My name is Keith Clattenburg.
And you work on the ramp here?
Yes.
And how long have you been here?
This is my second year.
Having fun?
I love it. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. This is T. Fox Dunham with What Are You Afraid of? Horror and Paranormal Show at sunny Penhurst. It's sunny and beautiful and bucolic here now, but I can assure our Philadelphia and world fans that come October, it's going to be dark, cool, spooky, and wonderful.
Quality warning. This podcast often records in the field to gather the best in paranormal materia from witnesses. Often, we cannot control the quality of sound in this environment, such as you may hear distortions or perhaps the occasional moaning. But then again, we're not about control, are we?
Embrace the chaos.
Caliburn Press, LLC is a Madison, Wisconsin-based publishing company owned and operated by Alan Ledden. Caliburn works with talented writers, artists, editors, and marketers throughout the United States, and you can find their books through their many imprints that include Damnation Books, Eternal Press, Malefiria Press, Ciento Sordida Publishing, and Spiro Publishing. please visit their website at sites.google.com/site/Caliburn Press LLC/home or Google Caliburn Press to check out their growing list of titles on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and any other place fine books are sold.
Mercy, a new horror medical thriller from author T. Fox Dunham, published by Bloodbound Books. Based on the author's horrific battle with a rare form of lymphoma that involved intense chemotherapy and radiation, Fox turns the horror of his experience into terror on the page.
William Saint is dying of cancer. On most days, death seems like a humane alternative to the treatment. Stricken with fever, William is rushed to Mercy, notorious as a place to send the sickest of the poor and uninsured to be forgotten, and finds the hospital in even worse condition than his previous visit.
Willie's memories faded. He grabbed his sack head, the sack head of the scarecrow, picking at the exposed chicken wire to hold them in. However, the memories fell out of the holes in his face. They wormed and crawled from the leather flesh and the old clothing of the scarecrow, then squirmed and wiggled down his body.
The grounds are unkempt, the foundation is cracking, and like the wild mushrooms sprouting from the fissures of decay around it, something is growing inside the hospital. Something dark.
Fangoria gives Mercy 3.5 out of 4 skulls. Dunham has channeled his many brushes with the other side into the exquisitely rendered, lyrical, supernatural hospital thriller Mercy.
It's feeding on the sickness and sustaining itself on the staff, changing them, and now it wants Willie.
Come now, Mr. Saint. Just a little more of that sweet milk. So salty and so good. You won't miss it. And we ever do so like our delicacies here at Mercy Hospital.
Part medical horror, part supernatural suspense, Mercy is a hard-hitting fever dream of a novel. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Tim Wagner, author of The Way of All Flesh and Eat the Night. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere in both print and digital versions.
Life is an addiction.
Let go. Let it all burn.
I just want to let everyone know we've got people out on the site. We're seeing flashlights in Fort Mifflin.
There's people braving it out.
We hope they're flashlights.
Yeah,
or the ghosts.
Oh, maybe not.
That was earlier when we saw. I was flashing my flashlight around in the rain, and we saw something reflected, and it was like, unfortunately, it's like, I immediately went, probably not a ghost, because they tend not to wear the reflective tape.
That's good. Ghosts do not wear reflective
tapes. Because you know what?
tapes.
They don't care if some car hits them, because they're like, you know what? It's going to go right through.
It's going to pass through a little ectoplasm.
So ghosts are kind of weird that way. So it's like we knew it wasn't a ghost, and apparently I think we decided it was like a raccoon or a possum, which they have, or a groundhog, because they say they have some horrendous groundhogs.
I imagine so.
I still wish it was a ghost, though.
It would have been nice.
Cool. I always hate debunking ghost things.
I know.
Because it's like, hey, look at my ghost. It's like, yeah, no, I think that's just...
Yeah.
The piece of broken glass. Damn.
We had a great reading.
Oh, that was
tonight.
Great.
That
so
was
good.
That was James
so
Chambers. That was John Foster, Megan Arcuri, Phil Thomas. Shannon and Peter couldn't make it tonight. Tony Knighton came up tonight, and I read, but it was an incredible reading. I mean, the atmosphere made. That's what I was going for.
Well, you're in Casement 5, and that's one of the most haunted places in this place. Is that there's actually several ghosts in there.
You want to tell us about them?
Well, one of my favorite stories is there's one where as you go in, there's some like little beds, and there's apparently one as you go in right on the left, the first one, and there's a ghost that likes to sit there and sew.
So
well, look, he's from the Civil War, so at that time, if you're clothes,
I get it,
and he was in prison, so if your clothes he had to sew, and so he sits there a lot of times, and then people see him sew, and one of the guides tells me that there was a family here, and when she first started, and that came to visit the thing, and she didn't tell him about any of the ghosts, and one of the teenage boys came back to her and he says, "Is this place haunted?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, why?" And he's like, because he went in there and he decided he'd sit down on the bed, and he said it was like when he sat down, it was like really freezing cold, and all of a sudden he's like, you heard this, "Get off, get off!"
Really?
And he realized that he sat down on the ghost.
Oh my word! Wow, really?
Yes.
I hadn't read that. Yeah, that's a really cool story.
Casement 5 is like the most haunted place. I'd like to go back in there, and but almost every building out here is haunted with something.
Right. Especially badgers and groundhogs.
Groundhogs. They used to have cats out here. The cats have passed away. But they said, this is a fun, I gotta, if I can bring in cats into this.
Of course.
There used to be 2 cats, and apparently one of the cats liked Doritos and was very friendly. The other cat was kind of feral. But since he's passed away, one of the guides says that he is, they still experience him. You'll feel him rubbing up against his legs, like he used to do.
Okay, that's another ghost cat. You love ghost cats.
I love ghost cats. I love a good ghost cat story. So I actually, I got out when I came back. He said this cat in life liked Doritos, so I brought Doritos back for the cat.
That's awesome. The Dorito cat story.
Yes,
what are you afraid of?
This cat really liked Doritos in life, and I was like, so I gave the guy Doritos. Says, so here for your, probably won't share them with the cat, but the thought was that this Dorito eating ghost cat wandering around Fort Mifflin. I mean, how awesome! I love stories like that.
And of course the ghost cat of Benjamin Rush.
Yes.
We talked about that on episode 55.
Then he moved next door. Yeah. He's like, I'm not gonna sit. You walk around this empty place. Screw you. I'm gonna go in the house next door and wear straw.
Your source for everything paranormal. Para X.
Hi, kiddies. It's T. Fox Dunham from What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show. And my hair is kind of bouncy and wavy today. Sometimes a body is a curse. And we are hanging out at Fort Mifflin. Looks like everyone's gone to get food, so this is a good time because the room is quiet. But we are down with some great authors. We've got John Foster. We've got Jimmy James Chambers. We've got Megan Accione. I do it with a flourish. I love it. She hates it. We've got Phil Thomas. We've got, and a couple of other people. I'm trying to remember if I forgot anyone, myself. And of course, joining us late in the program, because, he's such a cool guy and one of Philadelphia's great, is Tony Knighton.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing swell, Fox. How about you?
Oh, I'm having a fun day. This is great. A lot of people are coming out. Malcolm says hi. He's here. And we are looking for your ghost story. So if you've got one, send one in, because we've got some amazing programming coming up in September and October, starting with Horror at the Fort Mifflin with Para X Radio. And What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show. We got a great author reading tonight. We're going to turn it into a special. People have already captured some ghost stories. So, Tony, how long have you been writing, Tony?
Probably about a dozen years.
About a dozen years? Okay. And how did you get started writing?
I always wanted to write. I read all the time, and it was something I always thought about doing and never got around to. Mm-hmm. And I went through a long bout with insomnia.
Okay.
And I needed to find something to do in the middle of the night that was quiet and productive.
Right.
And I thought, this is perfect. I'll start writing.
Mm-hmm.
And my first efforts were really, really bad. And I was still interested in pursuing it.
Okay.
So I cast about, and I thought about things, and I was like, where do you go to learn to write? I was like, school.
Okay.
You go to school. So I started taking some classes at community college.
All right. And so what did you learn? How did it transform your writing these classes? What did you learn after school that revolutionized your work?
Oh, man. I had really, really good teachers at community college, and I got something from everybody, I think. The first guy that I took a class with was Peter Grimes, and Peter was very encouraging, and he handed me back a story I had written, and he said he liked how my dialogue was going. He said, but it's kind of just shooting the shit.
Okay.
And he showed me how good dialogue is really, it's supposed to be doing something more than just, this is two guys talking.
What is it supposed to be doing?
It's like everything else in a story, it's supposed to be moving the story ahead.
Okay.
And I think that was like I took a lot away from Peter, but that was the main thing that I got from him. Simone Zelich, I took her class, and she also was very helpful and very encouraging. And she let me know that you can do whatever you want to. It's your story. And I think up until taking her class, I was probably hesitant about some things. A lot of other good teachers. Julie Odell made me realize that I mean, all these people taught me things, but one of the things that I got from Julie that was really important for me when I got it was she gave me back a piece that I had written and said that this isn't working and that you need to, I forget exactly what it was, and I said, yeah, I feel like there must be an easy way to do that. And she said, no, writing is hard.
Right.
And that's an important lesson. I think there's a lot of people out there that'll tell you, oh, writing's a snap. And it's not.
No.
It's tough. It's hard work. I mean, that's what we like about it, too. There was a gentleman there named Rufus Caleb, and I took his class, and he really got me into moving things around and seeing how it changed things. He really had a great eye for that. And you know, I could go on and on.
Right. I understand. But it's very good for our authors to hear that, because we have a lot of people who listen to the show that are rising as authors and need to learn, and you've given them some great advice. So, how long have you lived in Philadelphia?
Most of my life.
Most of your life?
Most of my life. I wasn't born here, but we came here when I was little, and moved away and came back a couple of times, and except for the service, I've probably not lived anywhere else.
Do you mostly write about Philadelphia?
Yes, yes.
And you're a crime author?
Yeah.
Mostly?
Mostly.
Do you dabble in other things too, or?
I've published a pretty straightforward horror story with Cemetery Dance and a somewhat horrific speculative piece with Gray Matter Press.
Now, so we worked with Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, Tony is a very good friend.
Oh, yeah, great guy.
In fact, I want to thank Tony. He's been instrumental on helping me design and clarify our new website design at www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com. All the episodes are up, all the materials up, all the ghost stories are up, and it's a really good looking site. And Tony has helped me with a lot of the little nuts and bolts that I don't know, I've kept him up to like 3 a.m. every night with Tony. So, Tony, we love you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Tony Rivera and Sharon Lawson are the best.
Indeed. And so what would you say is Philadelphia's? I write a lot of crime fiction in Philadelphia too. Most of my stuff is written in Philadelphia.
Sure.
And I've written about other places in other cities, but what unique qualities does Philadelphia possess that other settings do not?
That's interesting. I mean, for me, mostly it's the city that I know really well. I work for the city of Philadelphia as a firefighter, and say as opposed to a place like New York, where the cost of real estate has meant that every square inch gets billed on.
Right. Okay.
In Philadelphia, there's a lot of unintentional green space, and I think about this a lot because as a fireman and cops end up running through places like this quite a bit, and no other adults do. Kids do. It's the kind of places where kids play, but adults don't really go there. And these, I don't know, interstitial spaces have really kind of caught my imagination, and Philadelphia's full of them. All over the city, everywhere you look.
Barbara Duncan, for artists, it's usually the hands that are difficult to draw. Is dialogue the hardest for writing, do you think?
I've heard a lot of writers say that it is, and I've read people who it obviously was problematic for them, some really good writers. I like dialogue. I like to read it. I like to write it. I want to hear what people have to say.
Right.
I've written a few short stories that seem action-packed, but really aren't. Everything's a conversation.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know, I think if you work it the right way, it can seem just as exciting as action.
Dialogue is the first rule I had to learn about dialogue was that you can't write in your own voice. Like you end up writing dialogue that sounds just like your story. So you're writing a paragraph and then you end up writing dialogue, and the dialogue sounds just like
your narrative.
The narrative, and you have to learn that your dialogue has to be the most specific and unique quality to your character. And learn that you don't need to write in complete sentences, not in dialogue. You don't need to, and try to make everyone's voice different. And the best way to go about doing that is by listening to people and how they speak, and picking up idioms and things like that. But I get it, Barbara. Before I got sick and lost the dexterity in my hands, I was in art school, and hands were a specialty of mine with pen and ink. They are the most difficult, and I have to say, besides setting, to do setting well, that's difficult. To write setting specifically with a voice, that takes work. It's not just a description of place and time. You need to add atmosphere. You can add voice to it. You can add reflection, metaphor, theme to setting. So that it's really tough because that gets overlooked a lot. I just need to tell the reader where they're at and what time it is. But setting is a lot more than that. But yeah, I'd say dialogue can be pretty tough to sync up. But if your character and your dialogue don't sync up, you've lost your narrative.
Yeah, I agree.
So what are you working on these days, Tony?
The book that I have out now is 3 hours past midnight.
Okay.
And the protagonist from that story, from that novel, came from a short story that I published called Mr. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And essentially, the guy in Mr. Wonderful was he was in a bad dilemma, and he got out of it. And I realized I wasn't done with him. And he was injured in that story, so I figured 3 months later, after his broken bone is healed, he'll probably be looking for work. And that's how I started writing 3 hours past midnight. And I think I'm going to do something else with him.
Okay.
I've never given him a name. Nobody knows his name.
He's just Mr. Wonderful.
He's not even Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful was a reference to somebody else. But I've started something else with him. He's gone back to the location of the original story, looking for his money. And that's all I'll say about that.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. That sounds wonderful. And you're working with Crime Wave Press right now?
That's correct.
And are there any other crime author publishers you'd recommend?
Well, I don't think you can go wrong with anything from Crime Wave Press. Everything I've not read their entire output, but I do like everything that I've read by them. I especially like Ben Jones's work. Andrew Netti's novel with them is strong. There's a guy named, and I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce his name right, Ezra Kirill Erker.
Okay.
And he wrote a book. He wrote the first thing of theirs that I read. It's called Salaryman Unbound.
Okay.
And that's a really fun book. But I don't think you can go wrong. Other publishers in crime fiction that I like All Due Respect.
Sure.
They're doing some interesting things. Down and Out Books has a lot of good stuff.
Sure.
I can't think of the name of this, and their name begins with a P. Polish Books.
Okay.
They're very good. There's some others that I've read a couple of things, Fahrenheit books, Snub-Nosed Press. There's a lot of good stuff happening in the indie world.
Yeah,
in
okay.
Crime fiction.
And so, what advice would you give to a new author just starting out in the field? What do you wish you had known 12 years ago at the business side of this?
Oh, gee. Write a lot. Learn to thrive on rejection.
Yes.
You'll get to it. I got at least 35 rejections for my first published short story before I got it published.
I always tell people they're not properly equipped for the business of writing until they've been rejected to the point where they're numb, where they just go, okay, that's fine. And to know that you're not always being rejected on quality, but a lot of it's marketing. They just can't use your work.
Yeah.
And so don't take it too personally.
Sure.
There have been times where it's taken me years to sell a story to find the right market, and then one day I do, like The Last Elf with Big Tony River at Grey Matters Press. I mean, I peddled that story for years and years and years, and it was just the wrong content, or we don't like the elves in this, and finally he saw the vision in it and created ominous realities for it. And that took me 12 years to sell that story.
Wow.
Yeah, but eventually you just kind of re-edit them, go back over them, and keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah, you really do have to thrive on rejection.
For the only proper response for an author to rejection is to submit again.
Yeah.
Am I right, guys? Yes. There it is. Everyone's here. Yeah. All right, Tony, I got to go start setting up with the ghost tent.
Cool.
But thank you for sitting down with us.
Well,
And you'll
thank
be
you.
reading tonight with the other gang. This is T. Fox Dunham. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking soon.
You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows, visit electronicmediacollective.com.
My name is Greg Bakken. I'm a writer, a producer, and a paranormal investigator. My favorite way of communicating with spirits is through using the spirit box, also known as a ghost box. I invite you to listen to me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central for interviews with people in the paranormal community and beyond. Plus, I will also include as much of my spirit box evidence as I can during my show. My name is Greg. Can you say Greg? Can you say Jeff? Greg. Jeff. Join me every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central Time for Minnesota Ghost Box, only on Para-X Radio.
The Haunted Casemates of Fort Mifflin, from the book Haunted Philadelphia by Darcy Oordt, read by Phil Thomas. While every inch of the fort appears to be haunted, some of the most chilling tales come from the casemates. Casemates are small rooms in the walls of the fortress from which guns can be fired. Although the rooms were never used for this purpose at Fort Mifflin, soldiers found other uses for them. Through the years, they have been used for storage, as a chapel, as barracks, and as a prison. The latter is why they are often referred to as the dungeon. During the Civil War, more than 200 Union and Confederate soldiers were kept within the casemates. One of the ghosts frequently seen in Casemate 5, as well as other locations in Fort Mifflin, is the Faceless Man. Typically, people see a man sitting in the casemate sewing, with a black hole where his face should be. On 2 separate occasions, people have caught an image of a tall man more than 6 feet high wearing a sloppy coat, but no face. Some people have described the Faceless Man as mocking and mean. He may also be the same ghost that haunts Casemate 4. Here visitors have been pinched, grabbed, and experienced an unpleasant sensation. Blonde women are a favorite target. They have had their hair pulled and even report feeling as if someone was trying to strangle them. Many say that the ghost in Casemate 4 and 5 is that of William Billy Howe, who was executed at the fort on August 26, 1865. According to the story, authorities sold tickets to the hanging, which turned into a party. Howe was particularly upset with the giggling women in the crowd and is seeking revenge against them from beyond the grave. While the story sounds heart-wrenching, it doesn't match the historical record. Howe fought in the Civil War at the Battle of Fredericksburg. He was one of only 5 men who came off the field of carnage with the colors of his regiment. According to an August 27, 1865 article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, after his regiment left the field, Howe exchanged his musket for an Enfield rifle and went back to the field. He remained there overnight and into the following day, when he barely escaped being captured by the enemy. After the battle, Howe contracted inflammation of the bowels and was ordered to Washington for medical treatment before the regimental hospital was burned down. When neither he nor his friend Augustus Bading could find treatment there, they decided to return to their homes and recover. Then one rainy night, Abraham Bartlett and 3 other men came to his house to arrest Howe for desertion. When Howe's wife refused to open the door, the men began hammering on it to gain entrance. Howe fired 2 shots out the window. Whether he knew why the men were there or not has never been clearly established, but it does not appear that he intended to kill anyone. Unfortunately, one of the bullets struck and killed Bartlett. Howe was arrested several days later and brought to Fort Mifflin to stand trial for desertion and murder. He was guilty of both charges and sentenced to death. While awaiting sentencing, Howe attempted to escape, which caused authorities to transfer him to Eastern State Penitentiary. It was there he bid farewell to his wife and sons in a scene so heartbreaking that even the jailer, who was accustomed to such sights, acknowledged it was one of the most heart-rendering scenes he's ever witnessed. Before his execution, Howe asked for forgiveness from anyone he had harmed and even thanked the judge advocate and his lawyer for showing him kindness. The Inquirer article also described Howe as a man about 5 foot 8 inches in height and having a mild disposition. In other words, not tall or mean as people describe the faceless man. Other possibilities exist for the ghost, however. Approximately 30 prisoners died here during the Civil War. Any one or more could be causing the haunting, as seems to be the case in the other casemates. In Casemate 1, a soldier dressed in Revolutionary War apparel has been spotted standing near the fireplace. During one investigation, an EVP captured a voice identifying himself as Michael. People have also reported seeing one of the bunks moving by itself. On the other side of the fort, in Casemate 11, it wasn't discovered until 2006, but it didn't take long for ghosts to move in. The ghosts here do not seem to like visitors, since EVP sessions have recorded a voice telling them to get out. People also report feeling uneasy here. Interestingly, the name W.H. Howe was found carved into the wall of Casemate 11. Howe was probably kept here after his escape attempt before being moved to Eastern State. One important footnote in the Howe case occurred a year to the day after his death. On August 26, 1865, President Andrew Johnson ordered Howe's sentence commuted from death to imprisonment and a dishonorable discharge. Not really exoneration, but I suppose you take what you can get. Someone should have told Johnson that you can't reverse a death sentence after it has been carried out.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
Well, it's always like this, it's a demonic haunting.
Yeah.
Like demons don't have better things to do than haunt you in little suburbia. Like they don't have like plans or goals, and like they're like, I'm gonna just haunt here for a few years. I'm gonna have a little vacation home.
Might be really boring. You never know. They might just have nothing else better to do.
Well, and it's always like they have to it's always they were built on an Indian graveyard.
That gets me. There must be a billion Native Americans buried under every inch of soil everywhere. It's always or someone died in the house. That's always something. I mean, I know that this stuff gets connected to tragedy, but I really don't think. Like, everybody has to explain it. Like, oh, this all happened because this person died here and this person was tortured here. There's a Native American burial ground underneath of it, and somebody built a house over the property and the swimming pool without taking the bodies out of the graves.
Well, see, this brings up, and it's a little sensitive subject, but I'm really curious at whether or not the New World Trade Center is going to be haunted or not.
And see, you would think it would be.
That's
true. Yeah, I mean, it's tragedies.
It is one of those things where it's like, and it's like a kind of a sensitive thing.
If you follow those rules, then it would be.
Then it would be. You would think that everywhere.
Or at least the museum should be extremely haunted.
Yeah, there should be.
And I don't know if there is, and they just don't want to be out of respect, which I don't consider it disrespectful to say, oh, your loved one's a ghost, because it's one of those things where that doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't moved on. It just means that they, that they kind of have that imprinting onto this
Right.
world.
An imprint. That's good,
So,
Darcy. I like that.
So it's like I don't want like people who are like, oh, you know, like I'm saying that your loved ones are still stuck here because they died in a tragic way.
What a terrible thing too to tell somebody. Wow. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, with Halloween coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it was just announced yesterday that Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back for the next Halloween movie.
I saw that.
Wow,
She's
you must
like-
be
it's
so
coming out
delighted.
next year.
I am.
I mean,
Next
she's
year.
got a walker, but it
Next
must
year.
be.
Yeah, it's like she said she was on
She's
her way
re-
to Haddon.
She's reprising her role as Laurie Strode, and it's coming out October 19th, 2018.
Who's the director?
I'm trying to remember his name. His name is eluding me right now. But John Carpenter is producing it, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, the problem is that yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back because what has she done lately? I mean,
Yeah,
She
true
did
enough.
Scream Queens last year in the.
But that was more of a cameo role because she was in.
She was like
I
the
mean,
dean or something. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, but she
Dean
really
Munch?
hasn't.
Dean
I mean,
Munch, right?
but she used to be like a TV, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
maybe she's been doing other stuff. I mean, it's like, but we haven't. And I don't know if she's
But it got
trying to make it-
canceled though. Scream Queens got
Yeah,
canceled,
it
and I was
did.
very upset because I was expecting another season this year, and I did not know up until yesterday that it had gotten canceled.
Really?
I didn't
oh,
know.
you didn't
I didn't know.
That's who's
I
doing
was
Scream
looking
Queens,
at
or that was
It was
that was
Jamie
how-
Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee
It was
Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis and a bunch of Abigail Breslin and a bunch
Right.
of.
But see, nowadays, even if a show gets canceled, I mean, that doesn't mean it's
John
not going to be on
Stamos was in it.
Netflix
Was he?
or.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many platforms for TV shows that
Right.
even when they get canceled, they're still live. It's like,
David Gordon, by the way, is the new director. Apparently, the new Halloween Finds director, and David Gordon.
David Gordon, okay.
I don't know who that is.
He co-wrote it with the guy who did Eastbound and Down. I don't remember his name.
Okay, sure. All right. Armand Rosamilla. Love that show.
Yeah.
By the way. So,
you know,
Danny McBride.
okay.
That's it. So Danny McBride and he are co-writing it.
I'm kind of disappointed that she's coming back because she did come back, and I thought that was like kind of the climactic Halloween movie, and I was like, well, let's do one
Now she's
more.
coming back again.
And that's a kind of a Hollywood.
Well-
let's make it until it sucks really bad.
Well, they did H2O, and then
They did
they
H2O.
did Resurrection, where she dies within the first 10 minutes, and I almost walked out of the
Now,
theater.
Did really?
If she's coming back and she's now Michael Myers, like she.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That would be.
I don't think that's when it's gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I know, but that would
But
be a
it's
really good
she's
movie.
she's got a mind for a twist there. That's clever, Darcy. I like that. That would be a great way to.
If Jamie Lee Curtis is watching this, which I'm sure she will.
Yes.
I'm
Thank you,
sure
Jamie.
she's
Hi,
watching
Jamie.
right now.
I didn't mean that
Jamie-
Walker comment.
Jamie Lee, you should be the killer. Like, make it look like it's, but you're faking it like it's Michael Myers, but it's actually you.
I'm putting that in the search engine. That's Darcy's theory for the best
That's
Halloween
my
movie.
theory
That's
on
Darcy's
the
theory.
new Halloween movie. That's
Yeah.
what I would like to see.
What are you afraid
because-
of? Horror and paranormal, Sean.
And John Carpenter, you may use that. you have free reign
There
to
you
use
go.
that. I'm not going to say, oh,
You
that
heard
was
it
my
here
story.
at Fort
No,
Mifflin
you
on
free-
episode 59.
Because you know what? I'm not gonna make that.
She's done with it.
I'm not, because first of all, I gotta get the rights to the character.
John Carpenter just side relief.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
Darcy's not doing it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not writing that fan fiction. The Halloween
Yeah.
fan. I'm done.
He
I'm
just
done.
sent me a text. He said, "Okay, no problem."
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Appreciate that. It's
Oh,
so-
just sent Phil a text, told him it was okay, tell Darcy.
He said, "Tell her it's fine."
like,
Yeah.
okay. If he doesn't do that, maybe I will have to write that fan fiction of. Because nowadays fan fiction gets a little love.
I wrote some
Did
fan
you?
fiction. It was a short film that we never actually shot years ago, called. It had to do with the daughter, the sister that Michael Myers kills.
Okay.
Yeah, Judith.
Judith.
So we actually called it just Judith, Judith, and then it had to do with like Michael, like seeing her, and because you know how like Laurie Strode is adopted, and after he kills his sister, so it would be like Judith bringing up and like why Michael is kind of the way he is, sort of thing. And it was a whole short film, but we never shot it. Because it would be a fan film.
Yeah, that would be. I know a lot of those come out, but then if they're too good,
And
the
then-
studios have a problem.
And then I was on YouTube a couple years ago, and someone actually did do a movie called Judith.
What can you do?
And they shot, and the perfect thing, and I'm not even joking, they got the house. I forget what state it is. It was a complete replica of the Myers house somewhere down south. And they contacted the owners, and they went down and shot there. So it looks exactly like the 1978 Halloween Myers house.
They committed. So
you got to give it to them.
It's, I love people who do that. Like they're like, I'm gonna just do this for fun.
I was thinking you're writing a new book,
Yes.
Worst afterlife ever.
Right.
I keep thinking about the Simpsons comic book guy. Worst afterlife ever. But you started, and the line I remember was what was it again? What was the original line?
Oh, it was my name is Drake Teller and I'm an asshole.
And then what happened?
I found that someone else used it. Someone else used it in another book already. They just say my name is something, I forget the name, and I'm an asshole.
What's the new line? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was. They say that there are worse things than dying. Whoever said that apparently never died.
Huh. And you know what? You got a laugh tonight.
I did, yeah.
You got a laugh tonight. I heard that. The audience laughed at that line when you read from your new book, your WIP.
Right.
Work in progress. You got a chuckle because you delivered it and you paused.
Yeah.
Which showed presence.
Right.
Again, we were talking about it's so important not just to get up and just read off your lines, you have to have presence. Because that's what people listen to. It's like the show. I try to do a variation of sound in the time slot because the ear gets bored. And readings, people aren't used to them. They're used to television, they're used to radio medium, so you can't go longer than a certain time period because people start droning off.
They do. You're right. They start pulling out their phones.
Yeah, and
they start checking their Facebook page.
Well, you're talking about the afterlife. I wondered, and for some reason I was thinking about this today, which is weird. I don't know why I was thinking about this today, but think about ghosts never get to sleep. They never get to eat. They never have a pause. Like that we know about. I mean, I haven't really talked to a lot of ghosts, but I mean, it's like they are existing all the time. And that's gotta drive you insane.
Like Slimer, he was trying, the Ghostbusters movie, he was trying to drink the wine and it was going right through him and he was trying to eat.
Which you realize Slimer was actually, they did that for Jim Belushi.
Did they really?
That was his, because originally he wrote the screenplay with Jim Belushi was supposed to play one of the characters.
I didn't know that was supposed to be. That's incredible. What a great little tidbit, So glad you're here, Darcy. Speaking of, we were talking about some good horror shows because it's that time of year where we're going to start really getting into, horror books and zombies and really go crazy. I started watching the new Walking Dead. I caught up on the season.
Oh, nice.
And at first, the show to me was kind of like, well, who's the crazy warlord we have to fight of the week? And that's really what it was. And then they created Negan. And at first I was kind of like, oh, great, another psychotic warlord they got to fight. And he is homicidal, he's crazy. But the thing is, they created a well-rounded character who's not black and white, he's gray. He has these moments where you like him, where you're kind of like, you know what, he's pretty cool at times. And it feels like he's the only one that's sane in that world at this point. So I have to admit, there were some times I really enjoyed the show. Have you guys caught up to Walking Dead at all?
I watched it. I was a very faithful watcher of it, and then after Glenn died, I watched it for the next season, despite Glenn dying.
Spoilers. I'll warn spoilers on that, but he did die. It's a shame.
It's not a spoiler if it's been around for a while. I mean, it's one of those things where
you didn't spoil it for me.
So,
and the reason is because I don't know who Glenn is. So.
It's one thing where you start talking about.
I've seen one episode of the show. So.
I don't believe in spoilers being things that have been out for a couple of years.
Have you seen The Strain, Darcy?
No.
It's right now. It's on Hulu. It's an FX show. It's a modern vampire story. Guillermo del Toro does it. He wrote the book, and then
Guillermo del Toro does it.
Guillermo del Toro, right? That's it. And it was based on a series of books, and they decided to do just 4 seasons because they wanted to tell one story. They didn't want to make it like 8 or 9 seasons. Oh, what do we do with these characters now? New Warlord of the Week, new vamp. So it's a single build-up leading to a major climax where these vampires have taken over. But they reimagined the vampire with a modern scientific context in history, and then gave them a plan and brought in all these different elements initially. And I don't want to give away too much, but I have really quite enjoyed it.
Well, see, now there's a movie, and I'll have to grab my phone and look it up because I can't think of what it is. But if you're talking about vampire movies, or you're talking about a TV show, but there's a vampire movie that it's New Zealand or Australian, and the concept is a reality TV show.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just watched it like 2 nights ago.
Oh, did you really? Like on Amazon?
I know. Is it we know What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, I think
What We
that's
Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
We literally just watched that.
We're
Is this a vampire? It's a comedy.
It's so funny.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
It's hysterical.
I gotta see
It
this.
is hysterical.
I've heard it's very good.
Like, yeah, because it's like where it's like basically kind of like Big Brother, reality TV
It's
show
so
where they're like following vampires.
The first 5 minutes, I was like laughing out loud because when they go
It's-
down and he wakes up Peter, and he's like, Peter's 8,000 years old. He's not coming to the meeting. I was like dying.
Darcy, do you want to share any more ghost stories about Fort Mifflin that you know? So we can...
Go to Haunted Philadelphia, you'll see the videos that I posted, and one of the guides told me that she feels like that's the spirit that has followed her around occasionally, the Civil War soldier, and that she's, like sometimes she'll hear him like walking behind her, and I did when I went into one of the other buildings. It has like a nice wooden floor, and I was in there by myself, and I stopped walking, and I could hear like the floorboards creaking. I was like, all right, are you going to come say hi to me? And he was like, did not want to say hi to me at that point. He waited until later to get on video.
Okay. No, it sounds like you've really got an energy going here tonight, and I want to find out more of what you capture.
Yes.
And I just want to tell our audience, next week, Gettysburg.
Yes.
Yeah, September 23rd with Mark Nesbitt.
Oh, Mark, he's a great author.
Yeah,
he's a really good author and really well knowledgeable about Gettysburg.
Yeah,
he's like the Gettysburg.
He, Mr. Ghost of Gettysburg. He was on the show last year, and this year we're going down and doing a 2-hour special. We'll televise it, we'll film it, we'll record it, and we've got some great ghost stories coming up.
Yes, people watching need to buy his books because they're really good.
We're calling this our Countdown to Halloween 2017. And we've got a lot of content coming up. And so, thanks for joining us. This is Fox.
This is Phil.
This is Darcy.
And we will see you next episode. We're from Fort Mifflin
Them.
soon. We're at Fort Mifflin on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror and Paranormal Show on Parax Radios at 9 p.m. We're also on the EMC Podcast Network, which is really cool. And you'll find us on all major podcast services. And check out the website, the brand new, amazing website, www.whatareyoufraidofpodcast.com for expanded content, links to Darcy's book. Buy her book. It's incredible, especially if you like Pennsylvania, Philadelphia ghost stories. We'll have more from her. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Have a good night.
Like, demons don't have better things to do than haunt you.
Little suburbia.
T. Fox Dunham lives in Philadelphia with his wife Allison. He's a lymphoma survivor, cancer patient, modern bard and historian. His first book, The Street Martyr, was published by Gutter Book. A major motion picture based on the book is being produced by Throughline Films. Destroying the Tangible Illusion of Reality or Searching for Andy Kaufman, a book about what it's like to be dying of cancer, was recently released from Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and Fox is a story in the Stargate anthology, Points of Origin, from MGM and Fandemonium Books. Mercy was recently released by Bloodbound Books. Fox is an active member of the Harvard Association. He's been published in hundreds of short stories and articles, and his motto is Wrecking Civilization, one story at a time.
Phil Thomas resides in the suburbs of Philadelphia and is an author and filmmaker. His screenplays have been produced into feature films such as False Face and Always from Darkness that are available in major retailers such as Best Buy and Target, as well as availability on Netflix and Amazon On Demand.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.